Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to show you exactly how I use literature in our homeschool or in our home education in order to bring in a myriad of subjects, specifically in language arts, your grammar, your spelling, your vocabulary, your reading, your comprehension. We may look at literary devices, we'll tie in some history. If science also ties to it, we'll do all that. So I'm going to show you. So let's look at this book, for example, Between the Lines. How Ernie Barnes went from the football field to the art gallery. So what I'll do, and my son already knows this, but here are some of the things that I will do when reading a book. I'll say, okay, between the lines, what is that? The title page, right? Then we'll say, who is the author? And then he'll tell me, Sandra Neal Wallace. What is an author? He'll explain that. Who was the illustrator? He'll explain what an illustrator is, and he'll point out who the illustrator is. I'll say, what is this part of the book called? Front cover. What is the back of the book called? The back cover, right? What we'll also do is I'll say, look at the picture and tell me what you see. And then he can go through all of the things that he sees within or on the cover of the book. The colors, the pictures, if there are any facial expressions. What is his first thought? What is the first thought that comes to mind when looking at the illustration on this first cover? And then we'll also talk about the different parts of the books. What is the title page? What is there a copyright page? All books have copyright pages. The copyright page is always right next to the title page on the left side. I'll ask him what is some information that's on the copyright page, what's the information that's on the title page. I'll ask him if there's a glossary, if there's an appendix, is there a bibliography? What are some of the parts of a book that's within this specific book? That way, we've covered parts of the book and that type of stuff. Then we'll go and we'll read the story. Depending on the length of the book, I will either read the entire story and then come back and pull out specific information to talk about, or I will pull up that information as we are reading. Let me show you an example. So let me go ahead and read this paragraph. In his first year of college, the civil rights movement pushed for greater freedom for African Americans. How Ernest and his art class, In his first year of college, the civil rights movement pushed for greater freedom for African Americans. Now Ernest and his art class would visit the museum. Ernest searched for paintings of people like him. He didn't see any. He had to find the words to ask the tour guide an important question. Ernest moved closer, gathering the words in his head. Where are the paintings by the Negro artist? He asked. So in this type of paragraph, I would say, okay, what is the civil rights movement? Have you learned anything about the civil rights movement? Tell me everything you know about it. Why did it begin? Why is it called civil rights? Why was it a movement? What are some events that took place? What sparked that movement? We'll talk about that based on the information that he's learned in our African American / African Studies teaching. And then I would ask him, what does the word freedom mean? And why did the movement push for greater freedom? Greater freedom for what? The second sentence is the fact that he would visit the museum, his art class. Why would the art class visit a museum? More than likely, it's an art museum. What do you expect to see in an art museum? Why would one want to go to an art museum, right? Ernest searched for paintings of people like him. Why was Ernest searching for paintings of people like him? What does that mean? People like him. Is it painters who painted pictures? Or could it be paintings that had African Americans within those paintings. It could be both, right? But why is that important? Why would that be important to you, son? To go somewhere, go anywhere, and to see people that look like you, to see yourself in books, to see yourself in paintings. Why is that important? We'll talk about that, and we'll say he didn't see any. And we'll ask, I'll also ask him, he had to find words to ask the tour guide an important question. And I would ask, why did he have to find his words to ask that important question? It says it was his first year in college, so obviously he had a vocabulary within him. He knew how to speak. He knows how to interact. He knows how to ask questions. So why did he have to find the words? How was he feeling in the moment? Was he feeling nervous? If so, why was he feeling nervous about asking such a simple question? And we will talk about that. And then it says, Ernest moved closer, gathering the words in his head. Where are the paintings by the Negro artist? He asked. So when he asked that question to the tour guide, let's assume the tour guide was of European descent. How do you think that made the tour guide feel? What do you think happened next? And then, so as you can see, it took about 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes for us to just go through this one paragraph, okay? And I would do that throughout the book. And again, that's why I say depends on the size of the book. If it's a thick book, I'll do that here and there. If it's a thinner book, I will probably read the entire book and go back and ask questions. But more than likely, I prefer to ask questions and spark thought and interest and communication while we are reading the book, just to get him to anticipate what could happen next, right? So I say this to say this. When you are reading a book to your children, any book, you do not have to just read it, check it off, and move on. Any book can be used to teach so many concepts. In this book, in this paragraph, what did we do? We talked about history. We brought in vocabulary. Let's say he did not know how to spell the word freedom or greater or museum. I would say spell the word college, spell the word movement, spell the word freedom or greater. Or if I don't ask him those questions specifically, I may put it on a spelling list. Or if he did not know the vocabulary word, or if he knew what the word meant, I would still put it on his vocabulary list. So you don't even need a specific vocabulary list or set of words in order to create your own English language arts program, guys. Before you read a book to your child, or before your child reads a book on their own, all you need to do is just, browse that book and write down some spelling words, write down some questions, see if you can pull out science, see if you can pull out, history, see if you can pull out spelling, vocabulary, and anything of the like. So how do we pull out science? We may not be able to pull out science in this book, but we read a book about Benjamin Banneker recently, okay? And Benjamin Banneker was a self-taught African-American. He was an astronomer, an author, and so forth. So because he was an astronomer, that brought in science. So we were able to bring in some science concepts and tie that into our astronomy unit study that we did these past few months. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you found this of interest. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the description box below and chat with me. Interact with me. Tell me, do you do this? Do you use literature in order to build your own curriculum? Do you use literature in order to further enhance whatever is being read? Or do you just simply read, choose a book, read the book, check it off, and move on? And if you do that, that's cool, because I do that with many of my books. But I'm just showing you what I do for the majority of our books. And especially if it's, for me, our African American authors, or if it's geared toward our African or African American studies, that type of literature. I always enjoy doing this type of diving in within our literature. All right, guys, as always, be blessed, keep homeschooling on, and make it. Prayer works, guys.